Africa is growing.
Yes.
And I guess it would be good for us as the current generation that is right here in this African renaissance. I don't know how to say it, because that's how I would describe it. Is I would want to be part of this growth that Africa is experiencing, and I think it would be good for you guys to come back and just experience that growth inside Africa, instead of having to be, oh yeah, this is how Africa is, and this is what is happening. So that's why I'd encourage guys to come back home.
Yeah.
Bonjour à tous, j'espère que vous allez bien. Nous sommes à Nairobi, comme vous le savez déjà, et nous sommes avec des locaux, des Kényans, qui vont nous dire un peu pourquoi est-ce que vous devez venir vivre au Kenya. Pourquoi vous devez venir vivre à Nairobi? Parce que Nairobi est une ville très intéressante. Donc on a des personnes qui vivaient en Australie, qui ont quitté l'Australie pour revenir s'installer ici, ce qui est génial. Et il y a d'autres qui ont décidé de ne jamais quitter le Kenya parce qu'ils se sentent bien, parce qu'ils pensent qu'on peut réussir au Kenya tout en étant Kenyan. So, hi guys. Hi. Hello. Hi. Okay, great. Before you introduce yourself, do you speak French?
No.
No, I do not.
Resounding no.
Oh my God.
A big no.
A big no. So, ce sera en anglais cette interview, mais il n'y a pas de souci. On va mettre des sous-titres pour vous permettre de pouvoir savoir de quoi on parle. First, can you just introduce yourself? Who are you? Where was you living before? And yes, I think that's fine.
Okay. My name is Wesley. I lived in Australia for 4 years and I moved back to Kenya recently and I work for a tech company.
My name is Ivy. I've lived in Vietnam for 1 year, in Australia for 1 year, and recently also moved back to Kenya.
Okay. Sorry, my name is Josh. I have not lived in any other country. I visited a couple of countries, but then I was born and raised here in a town called Nyeri. That's about 150 kilometers away. And right now, I went to school in Nairobi, and I currently live and work in Nairobi, and I work for a tech company.
Yeah, and finally, my name is John, as well as Josh. I've lived here. I've traveled out, but haven't lived outside the country. Born and bred some town about 250 kilometers from Nairobi called Eldoret. Came to Nairobi. This is where I hustle. I work for a company. It's a retail company. I wouldn't say it right now. And you can follow me on YouTube as well. I have a YouTube channel if you want to know Nairobi. Come see it through my lens. It's called African Traveller.
But you have to speak English.
No, because it's the language of the city, the roads, the view. Yeah. It doesn't speak just to everybody.
Let me tell them in French. So, en fait, il a une très grande chaîne YouTube ici où il parle réellement de Nairobi, comment visiter Nairobi, les bons coins, les bons endroits. Donc, réellement, si vous venez à Nairobi, je vais mettre ses contacts dans la description de la vidéo. Voilà, appelez-le juste et il va vraiment vous faire découvrir la ville. C'est quelqu'un de sympa. Je l'ai contacté via Instagram et tout de suite, il a décidé de me montrer la ville et c'était génial. Donc, si vous passez par Nairobi, vraiment contactez de African Traveller. C'est comme ça on l'appelle tous, sinon de son vrai nom, Jean, c'est ça? John. Okay. So I was just saying that if people come across, they just have to contact him. Then they can visit the country. I think you understand what I said, right? Yeah. Kind of. But you guys said something really interesting. You didn't feel the need to live abroad, to go abroad. Why especially?
So I guess for me, because family matters a lot for me, so that's how I feed my social life, through family and friends, as you can see. So I don't know.
My friends were living abroad, right? So
yes, and now I was so sad. At least I remember missing Wesley. I'm glad that they came back. But then for me, it's never been about living in other countries. It's just been about being at home and growing home. So for me, the main thing for me is friends and family. And at the same time, I guess the things that you'd get abroad, you'd essentially get them here. So there's nothing much that I'm missing out on. And what I try to do is every year try and go to a new country. So that way I'm not missing out on whatever is abroad, but then I'm still enjoying that and enjoying being at home.
Okay, cool. So you can find everything you want in here directly. Yes. That's good. And you, the African Traveller?
Oh, so yeah. I remember there's a time about 10 years, I used to have my friend who really wanted to go abroad, and every time he used to apply those, the green cards, blah, blah, blah. He used to struggle a lot. And I kept telling him, I want God to bless me in my country. So for me, from my young age, I really never wanted to like live outside the country. I would want to go and explore, but this is where the happiness is. There's a time I went to Dubai for about 2 weeks for a business trip.
Okay.
The loneliness I felt, I don't know, it's because I went for the business trip.
No, you can feel it.
Like the loneliness
lonely
I
in Dubai.
felt in Dubai, I wouldn't want, I never, like, that hit me so hard. And I was like, I would never want to, you know, like leave home. As you say, family is something that you realize as soon as you leave. If you have a strong connection, especially with your family, something that is really key. And the appreciation. Because I remember I used to go to, you know, the business meetings, the different malls, and because of your color of your skin, someone will respect you after knowing your title. You know, it's like, hey, oh, okay, hey, you know. So I feel appreciated at home more than anywhere else. So
yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah,
yeah, totally agree. And you guys, so you've been living abroad, and you finally decided to come back home. Why exactly? Why?
For me, it was just, you know, the opportunities here are so much more than abroad.
Where was you living?
I was living in Vietnam.
In Vietnam,
and Australia.
And Australia.
So
going back and forth, or just staying in Australia for some time?
Yeah, Australia for some time, Vietnam for some time.
Okay.
But it was a struggle for me, especially in Australia, just to find just an entry-level job, you know. I mean, I'm competing with the locals, and they would prefer to hire the locals because I have visa restrictions. I can only work for one company for maximum 6 months. So they don't want to bring someone who's going to leave in 6 months. It doesn't make any sense. And then, I don't know, apart from that, I just always felt different. I always felt like a foreigner. It never felt like home. And similar to what he was saying, I didn't feel appreciated. I just always felt sort of on the outside and not part of the community. And that's how people would also view me as, especially the way I talked, you know. The Australian accent was very different. It was sort of hard to understand it sometimes, but yeah.
But did it influence you, or was you proud of the way you was talking, of you, of
no, I was still
everything?
very proud of my home. And even when people would approach me and ask, oh, where are you from? You know, I'd always make a point to tell them, you know, obviously I'm from Kenya, and it's not just what you think it is, you know. It's not just a village, it's not animals, and no, I don't have a pet lion.
In 2020, some other people think that we like
exactly
in the jingle, moving from a tree to another one. This is crazy, really.
Right. And I would always, you know, I don't know if they would take me seriously, but always extend an invitation. You know, if they want to, you know, go on vacation, come to Kenya. I'll hook them up.
That's good.
yeah.
And you, why did you leave Australia?
Very, very similar story. I guess opportunities are difficult to come by, and in a lot of aspects of your life, you feel like you sit on the outward side of life. Socially, whether it's from a point of knowledge, you don't have a background there. It's very difficult to know, okay, what's hot, what's not, why is this like this? Socially as well, coming from home, you have friends. You have friends you went to high school with. You have friends you went to university with. But there you land and you're like a seed without roots. You exist, and you're trying to find your space socially, professionally, and it's difficult. And that for me over several years it was getting to a point where I don't think I need to do this. And I am aware of what I have left behind, and I think I have accomplished what I came here to do. So realizing that accomplishment, I went there to study. I did my study for 2 years. I worked for a bit. It wasn't what I studied in, but I think I was still fortunate to have been able to have some sort of professional experience. And after that was done, decided it's time to come back home, invest what we had learned here.
Great. And are you happy so far?
Yeah. I would say yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think something that's very key is the quality of life.
Okay.
For us,
so the quality of life is better in Kenya than in Australia?
I think so.
In what sense?
I think socially,
Okay.
being able to see friends, to see family.
The greatest friend of all time.
Yeah, I think, something that I don't feel that I felt there was a constant rat race. I needed to work. I needed to work to survive. But here it's more, all of those things, especially work, adds to my life. And I feel, although it's privileged to say this, but I feel like in a sense I have choice. I have choice to be able to start a business, even if it's not a big business, but it's something that I'm passionate about.
Okay.
And I can do that.
So today you have your own business.
I would want to. And it's something that if I felt that was the right time, I could do. As opposed to the feeling of a rat race where I need to work. I can't, there's nothing that I can do professionally there. It would be quite difficult to do.
Cool. So do you think because you are in your own country, you can easily launch a business
I think so, yeah.
and then maybe succeed? And
I think so, yeah. I think there's a feeling of home, and that's what I wanted in my life. Similar to starting a business, I wanted to start a business in a place of permanence, and that's not something that I felt abroad.
Okay. While being in Australia, what did you miss the most from Kenya?
Wow.
Besides
Besides
Josh, yeah.
Besides Josh. I think just home.
Home.
Yeah, there's a feeling of home that's very difficult. Even I was lucky that the city I lived in, I had friends who I knew from Kenya. But other than our little community, we'd have to go out of our way to find spaces where people who look like us exist. And a lot of that would be through art, through music, but although it would, for a time, allow us to feel connected with each other, it still wasn't home. Yeah, so I think.
What about you? What did you miss the most?
For me, it probably would be family. I mean, when I was in Australia, I used to talk to my mom every day. Every single day. And then when you're gone for so long, I mean, mine was just, 2 years? But even then, when you come back, it just feels so different. You know, you realize your friends, your family, like, obviously their time is moving for them. So they're growing, they're changing. And for some reason, it feels like in your head, when you leave, you'll come back and everything will, be the same. But that's not it, you know? Yeah, you come back and your cousins have children and, you're getting invited to weddings. It's
and you still live like a student.
Yeah.
I felt the same way.
Yeah, and one of the sad things is you realize, like, your parents are aging, and you want to be there for them and that's for that process. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally right. Totally right. Anyway, so why should people come and live in Kenya? Because the thing is, we're talking to people living in the diaspora. They speak either French or English. It doesn't matter. But why should people come and live in here and stay here and set up business and everything for you? What makes Kenya so special? You can start. I can see you want to start.
For me, what makes Kenya special is that how would I put it? You're able to get whatever you can get abroad here, in the sense of if it's good jobs that you're looking for, if it's opportunities to start a business, because it doesn't mean that just because you're not a local, you can't start a business. A lot of the businesses that are thriving in Kenya have been started by foreigners. Yeah. So that for me is interesting. And at the same time, you're in a country, or if you live in Nairobi, you're in a city that is actually starting to grow or to mature. So it would be good to be here at this point in time, and then you start seeing yourself growing together with the city. So if it's in terms of opportunities that you can get, if it's in terms of amenities that you get to enjoy, like I remember I would never in my wildest of dreams have thought that we would have an ice rink in Nairobi. You get what I mean? Or you can have things like indoor rock climbing, or you can have you can go to a restaurant that you use chopsticks and all those kind of things. So essentially, it's just a small world inside Kenya, I guess. And there are very many foreigners as well. So you find you'll have friends. One of my closest friends who speaks in French is half Burundi and half Tanzanian. You get what I mean? And you'll find very many other people that are that way. So your mind is not locked into thinking like a Kenyan. So you start thinking like a world citizen. That's what I like about it.
Great.
Yeah.
What do you think? Okay, let's the African Traveller talk a bit.
So for me is the enablers. So right now you have, I think in the last 5 years, Kenya was one of the most improved in terms of ease of doing business. Yeah, so in the world, among the best. So the enablers, government is really working hard to ensure that there's a fast and cheaper internet connections. You have a lot of investment into energy. So in fact, Kenya has the biggest wind farm in Africa. We have one of the biggest geothermal plants in Africa and in the world. In terms of renewable energy, we are among the best in the world. So there's a lot of infrastructure development. So government is doing its best, and I'm not talking like a person who loves the government.
It seems like how much
you may think that, but yeah, I don't like the politics side of it. But
okay.
Rather than that, we give credits to its due. So yeah, there's a lot of enablers. There's so many banks, credit facilities to enable your business around.
Credit facilities, can a foreigner like me easily get a credit or a mortgage in here?
Yeah, we have a lot of the international banks.
Okay.
So if you have things like Stanchart, Barclays, if you have those banks already, it's easier for them to track, and it's easier for them to give you facilities if you give proof of that. So yeah, so many guys are doing big business, like Josh said. There's so many people from different countries are coming to invest in the city. The other big thing is the youth. There's a huge number of youth, and with that, it's easier to tap into anything. Youth are dynamic. You're not like the old people, like only eat ugali. We're people who can explore things like chopsticks. Mountain climbing, ice skating. So having a big youth population makes it easier to come with any idea from any other country and invest in the country. And as well as we also have, despite the COVID time, but the middle class was really rising at a very fast speed. So with that market, it's very easy to explore anything that you want. And with that, it's very easy for guys especially Africans who went to those countries some years ago. You've had an experience of something that you've been doing there. You've seen something that is not available in your continent. Those are the things to come. And
I think I need to just sit with you, and then you're going to explain all of that. We're going to sit here. So a lot of things. So people can come for business. They can come because it's a good place also to stay.
Yeah.
I would like to know what you think.
Before you get to her, I want to give you a good example about how easy it is to do business in Kenya without being grand. So for example, I remember I was cooking one time. I can't remember, it was on a Saturday, and my gas ran out. And within 15 minutes, I had gas installed. So I'd called someone, because what they do is they slip sort of like a pamphlet under your door. Okay. So you just stick it on your fridge or wherever. So I remember calling the person, and within 15 minutes, I had my gas and I was cooking. So I don't think that's something that you'd easily get, especially in a place like Australia.
You don't handle a lot of cash here as well.
Yeah, M-Pesa. They've been asking me to pay everything through M-Pesa, but the thing is, I was only having like cash or credit cards.
So those are the enablers. Being a first time may seem hard, but if you're a Kenyan, especially right now where we have COVID, people don't want to handle cash.
Yes.
So it's a cashless, and something that is transforming a lot of business.
And you really advance in payment methods. I think you have like a lot of companies that do like money transfer and everything, and even M-Pesa is like a very huge thing. Yeah, cool. So why should people come and stay here and live in Kenya?
I would say mine is simple. Kenya wasn't the same Kenya as it was 10 years ago. It's rapidly changed, and it's a rapidly growing economy because of that. And I think there are a lot of untapped opportunities here, and because of that, there are a lot of new innovative ideas just being generated from the youth, like he said. And I think those are one of the things that will improve quality of life, and just the overall future of Kenya. Yeah.
Cool. What do you think?
Yes.
That's the great answer.
I think really great points all across the board. My addition would be, I think there's a vibrancy to the community. And especially to business. I think very few cities sit where Nairobi sits in terms of its centrality and the kind of talent, the kind of companies that it attracts. It only gets better. So the time would be now.
Okay, but no one talked about something very important. Food.
Yeah.
So yeah, people shouldn't come here because of food only. Are you not proud of your food, of the nyama choma?
We have good food. We have good food.
Good
The
food.
beauty, what I like about Kenyan food is it might be a bit bland, only because unfortunately our colonizers were British and
Yes.
they don't use that much spices. But then we have just
That's the
because
fact, huh?
But it's a
For
fact.
the Western,
I
Western
know.
African people is like crazy.
It's not like West
you guys
African
don't
food.
eat like
But the
spice.
beauty is this, because of how diverse Kenya is. So we have people at the coast that cook with a lot of spices.
Okay,
We
but
have
because
people
they've been influenced by India,
by Indians
Yes.
and also by Arabs,
by Arabs and all
these
this
things.
stuff, thankfully.
No, not thankfully. Our food is still good. But then, even if your palate is not for Kenyan food, at least you can easily get West African kind of food. There are restaurants that offer that at affordable prices. If you want to get food that you'd get in Vietnam, you can easily get Vietnamese cuisine in Kenya. So, and we have a big Indian population. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't say that you're lacking just because you're only eating Kenyan food, which you might not be used to as much as we like it. So there's this much variety that's there, both in Kenyan food and also, I guess, international
International food, yeah.
cuisine. Yeah.
Cool. Another reason can be the weather as well. It's very nice here to stay. It's not that hot like
So we're
Western Africa.
we're in the equator, so
Yes.
making it easy. So we have all kinds of weather, and Nairobi being almost at the middle, so we enjoy a very warm. It's not warm. It's between cold and warm. Yeah. So when it gets to about 27, 28, that is among the highest it can get. It can also get very cold at some
point,
some point, probably June, July, gets to as low as 10 degrees Celsius. But throughout the year, the weather is really, really nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, a question that people want really to know: how much do we need to live in Kenya to have like a good life? How much do you think we need? Roughly, on a monthly basis. I can see your thing, so maybe you're going to share with us. Maybe. Are you having like the life that you want to have in Kenya?
In Kenya shillings
In Kenya?
or
No, in dollars if
In
you can.
dollars?
Or Kenya shillings you're going to.
Um,
Are you comfortable in dollars?
I'm comfortable with either.
In both. Okay. just-
Um,
so roughly how much? One number. Number 6.
okay. Maybe per month. I would say if you want to be comfortable, where
yeah.
you're not
Comfortable meaning nice area to stay.
Nice area,
having like proper food,
going out to eat a couple
sometimes.
times.
Not like him, because I know he go out a lot, but like, yeah, like normal life, simple.
I
one.
would say maybe 800 to 1,000.
1,000 with $1,000 we can have a good life.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, between 800
We've been
and
telling
1,000.
me like 1,500 because I think he spent 500 only going out. Yeah,
5,000 good. No, but please, I don't go out as much.
Oh.
My mother might watch this. No, but then realistically, especially for a young adult, let's say in your late
young adult. I know.
Yes, I'd say in your late 20s, in your early 30s, like we are, having about 1,000, 1,200 or $1,500, you end up being comfortable, and you're also able to save for the future. You're able to do a bit of investment if you want to start your own business. You're able to just enjoy this small fine things.
So 1,000 is like for a single person.
Yes.
So 2 people with kids, maybe we're going to end up like another 1,000. Another 1,000. Because in 1,000 you're having like what kind of apartment and how much you pay for that? In 1,000. We have like a 1-bedroom apartment. How much you spend in like, well, we just want to break down to see how much we spend in housing and all the stuff.
Yeah, I think one, it depends on where you live.
Sure.
So Nairobi offers you choice. And even in those pockets of choice, there's things that Josh may not trade off on, but I would trade off on. So a great example here is, for example, my location may not be as prime as his, so he would pay more in rent. But then I could have maybe a larger place. So there's those sorts of things, but I think averagely maybe you're spending $400 to about $800 in rent.
In rent? Yeah. 400 for a 1-bedroom studio? Or depending on the area. Yeah, if you go far, then you can have even like a villa.
So as you say, Nairobi really depends on what what you do and the kind of life you want to have. So it's about choice. So if, let's say, you can even earn the $1,000 a month, but you live in a 2-bedroom that is $200. So, but the farther you are from the city, so the farther you are from the city, the bigger the house, the lower the rent, but the more the fare.
The fare, totally.
I guess essentially what we're trying to say is this. So much variety. Oh, sorry. I guess, sorry, what we're trying to say is there's so much variety in Nairobi and also in very many other cities in Kenya. And I guess you can look at his YouTube channel to try and see the different cities that we have in Kenya. The more, even if you don't have that much disposable income, you can end up living in a beautiful house. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a great location. It could be farther away from the city, but you'd still get that much quality of life as someone like myself who lives a bit closer to the city would.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think if I could add, I think as we start to grow older, we start to realize, some of the things our parents are doing, like looking at owning a home. And I think even for the youth, that's a reality. It is difficult to do, but I think as a young person, you can start thinking, okay, how can I begin to set up my own home? And just like African Traveller said, there's opportunities in our counties, and you don't have to live in a big city. You could live in a satellite city and begin to farm and create opportunities for yourself. So yeah,
cool. Another question that people want to know is like, what do you do to distract yourself, to enjoy yourself in Kenya?
There's a lot. The only reason why they're saying that is because I'm a very social person, and I like to see the world. Like I was telling you earlier, the beauty with Kenya and is that it's not such a big country. It's big, but not really big. So you'll find that a lot of the things you'd want to do, if you live in Nairobi or even if you live in another city, you can still travel and get there within the same day and get to do activities and come back. I'll give you a good example. If a lot of Nairobians like to go to Lake Naivasha, or a town called Naivasha Town that has a beautiful lake called Lake Naivasha. And it's about 100 kilometers from here, and you'll find that people will go there and have a good time and then come back, or they'll go for the weekend and enjoy themselves. Same thing as going on a safari. There's a park literally within Nairobi city limit, I would say, or precincts, and you can do that. If you wanted to go a bit further and go to the Mara, it would be a 4-hour drive. So that's not too much. If you want to go to the coast, it would be a 45-minute flight or a 4-hour train ride.
Most of the time you just go out of Nairobi?
No, not necessarily. I'm just trying to say that because a lot of the time people tend to associate Kenya with Nairobi only. Yes, okay. But then there's a lot more that there is to offer in Kenya.
Diani is not bad. There's Malindi as well. I've heard about that. Yes.
Yeah, so
in Mombasa, of course. Yeah.
In Mombasa. So there's all those other things that you can be offered. You can even be offered a desert safari like you'd get in Dubai or wherever you go that has a big desert in Kenya. But then for me personally in Nairobi, a lot of what I do is tend to host people in my house.
Okay. That's why you have like a nice setup.
Thank you. I try. But then I'll go out a bit. I'll go to the club, just dance a bit. I'll go out to to eat food. I'll go for events. There are very many events that are really cool. A good example is a friend of mine is actually coming up with an event where you go, you have a drink. It could be wine, and as you're painting. So it's called sip and paint. Okay. So there are all these really interesting things that you can do. And whenever you have nothing to do, you just stay in the house and you watch your TV, meditate, read a book. Cool. Yeah.
So you all do the same, or you have some other activities? You know?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, you do almost the same, right?
Yeah,
pretty much the same, pretty much. Okay. So we're going to finish soon, but what word can you tell to people watching? You know, most of them, they live in the diaspora, and most of the time they are not really happy about their life there. You know, let's say you have like a $400, you can have like a nice apartment, but there you're going to have like a tiny, in Australia or Europe, you're going to have like a tiny apartment. People are fed up of their life. You know, it's only like work, home, work, and they feel apart, you know, they don't feel part of the community most of the time. So what would you tell to people like that? In terms of like, should I come to live in Africa? You made the move. Should they move? Should they make the same move as well? What is your last word for them?
Let me just come home.
Yeah, okay. That was like straightforward. So come home. You too? No, you have to say something different.
I would say yes. I can't speak for your experience, but I can say I relate to that experience. And I would say visit. If you can, visit Africa, visit home. Feel the connection and see if it's right for you or if it's the right time for you. And it doesn't have to be immediate. You don't have to throw everything in the air, but you can do it with, you know, intention. Start with visit. You start looking at investment opportunities. You could start networking if you're in tech or business, whatever. Just come network, come meet people, see if this is where you thrive. And I think you will find your space.
That's like wise. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Josh, tell us.
I wouldn't speak about living abroad only because that hasn't happened for me. But for the few times that I've traveled, I felt very lonely. And I wouldn't say that being someone from the diaspora, that loneliness is all that you experience. But Africa is growing. Yes. And I guess it would be good for us as the current generation that is right here in this African renaissance. I don't know how to say it because that's how I would describe it, is I would want to be part of this growth that Africa is experiencing. And I think it would be good for you guys to come back and just experience that growth inside Africa instead of having to be, oh yeah, this is how Africa is and this is what is happening. So that's why I'd encourage guys to come back home.
Yeah, that's great. The African Traveller.
Best for last.
Yes, best for last.
These guys have said almost everything.
You have to be creative, man. You're like a content creator.
So what I can say is Africa is changing. And with this change that is coming, it will be very hard if you plan to invest in the coming 10, 20 years. Right now you can spend probably $20,000, maybe $10,000, and invest something that would be $100 million in the future. But if you wait 10 years, $10,000 will be a drop in the ocean because it will be a different place. So if this is the time, Africa is awakening and Africa is rising very fast. If you want to invest in the continent, the time is now. This is the time to connect. And what I tell because I get these questions a lot, where should I come and invest in Nairobi? Where should I come invest in Africa? What I would say is like my friend said, come and connect first. You're thinking probably Kenya is your calling, but come and connect. Visit Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, go to West Africa, go to North Africa, and you'll find your calling. So don't just be, like you say, don't just leave at once like, hey, buy Europe or buy America or buy Asia. Come, find your purpose, visit the continent, connect, and make a decision. So this is the time to invest.
That's good. That was great. Thank you guys. It was like nice. Nothing has been prepared. That's why I love it. So voilà, nous sommes à la fin de cette interview. Ils sont géniaux. Merci à eux d'ailleurs. Thank you so much for talking and sharing your experience. Comme ils l'ont dit, Africa is growing. L'Afrique est en train de grandir. Et si nous ne venons pas maintenant pour prendre notre part du gâteau, il sera trop tard demain. Aujourd'hui, avec 10 000, 20 000 euros, même moins, on peut investir en Afrique et avoir de grands retours sur investissement. Dans 10 ans, croyez-moi, ce ne sera plus le cas. 10 000, ce sera comme quelque chose que vous jetez dans l'océan. Donc, je vous invite vraiment à considérer cela, à revoir votre position quant au retour en Afrique. Et venez voir, on ne vous dit pas de quitter du jour au lendemain. Venez, voyez comment ça se passe, visitez plusieurs pays comme vous le pouvez, comme je suis en train de le faire, et vous allez décider dans quel pays vous voulez rester. Il faut vraiment enlever de notre tête le fait qu'on veut partir et vivre dans le pays dans lequel on est né ou on a grandi. L'Afrique compte 54 pays et il y a forcément un pays qui vous plaira. Donc n'oubliez pas de vous connecter à la chaîne de African Traveller. Allez voir ce qu'il fait. Il montre vraiment une autre image de l'Afrique qui est géniale, surtout du Kenya pour l'instant, mais je pense qu'il va commencer à voyager bientôt. Merci de nous avoir suivis et on se retrouve dans la prochaine vidéo.